Once again, a chilly start to the Scottish rallying year with the Snowman Rally in February. Lining up at the start in Inverness, the drivers faced a return to the traditional forest tracks in the Great Glen for the first time in 10 years. In the days leading up to the rally, rain had lashed the hillsides, causing landslips. Yet the organisers, Highland Car Club, lost only one stage and had to shorten one other. Leading off the 123-car field was 3 times championship runner-up David Galanders from Aberdeen in his Sierra Cosworth. But Donald Milne of Bankery put in a good early form in his Nissan-powered Peugeot in the treacherous conditions of snow, mud and ice, as the rally headed south from the Black Isle to Fort William. Jimmy Girvan from Inverness reappeared after a 2-year layoff in his new Toyota Celica GT4 with the benefit of 4-wheel drive. But still managing to get the best from his ageing Escort was Ian Baumgart, who travelled north from his home in Hawick. Spectating for once, top rally driver Jimmy McRae keeping an eye on Girvan's performance around the twisting Highland tracks. The car was in its element and Girvan cruised home to seize an early 2-point lead in the opening round of the championship. In 4th place was Ian Baumgart, seen here on the Port Clare stage high above Loch Ness. Jimmy McRae's main interest, though, was in son Alistair's performance in his 1300cc Nova, but he lost time with a puncture which dropped him down the field. But his performance was better than some others, like James Christie from Inverness, on home ground, not sure exactly where he was going. And facing much the same problem, Duncan Jaffrey from Bankery in his Rover Vitesse. A Sunday morning in March and the swollen Loch Carn Reservoir north of Glasgow, and the second round, the Valentine Rally. From its start in Stirling, it moved through the Trossachs and Fife to finish at South Queensferry. But on this occasion, Donald Milne was out of luck. After finishing just outside the top 10 in the opening round, he retired his 2.5-litre Nissan Peugeot on the De Villa stage in Fife on round 2. For Jimmy Girvan, though, things couldn't be going better, or so you would think. He led from the start as the 4-wheel drive Celica bit into the mud and rain to give him his 2nd consecutive victory in the championship. Yet he still felt he'd had something of an off day. That's not to say others weren't trying hard, like Murray Grierson in his Opel Kadett 400, who finished 3rd. Appearing in a left-hand drive Opel Ascona, Borders farmer Andrew Wood was setting out to be a serious challenger to Girvan for the championship. He put the pressure on through the Lochard stage in the Trossachs, and he spared the car little in Fife, leaping through the De Villa Forest and Blair Adam to score a fine second place. North East of England dentist Bill Limburn enjoys the Scottish forests in his 2-litre Escort. But he had his share of problems throughout the day and had to settle for a disappointing 37th place. In another Escort, Phil Walker, after third place on the Snowman, tried hard but settled for 8th here, while Jimmy's brother Wilson Girvan in his Sierra Cosworth couldn't match his brother's pace at the head of the field and finished 5.5 minutes behind him in 6th place. Jim Carty from Elderslie had a bad day in his 3-litre Metro 6R4. In spite of early promise, the number 13 on his door proved a bad omen, and he retired with a broken drive shaft. Ewan Brewis in the small 1600cc Mazda 323 had a fine time, coming in just behind the second Girvan in 7th place. And in his Sierra Cosworth, John Gray was the top Group N driver. Round 3 and the Scottish Championship moves to the North East for the Granite City Rally, which is also a counter in the British National Championship. At number 8 is local driver David Galanders, hoping for better luck than the previous year when he had a dismal performance in an MG Montego.
A little bit quick on a Montego, I think, but if they say it's snowing as it is, then the Montego might be a better bet today, you know, but we'll see what happens.
Right, best of luck, we'll see you later.
I could do with a bit of luck.
It may have been April, but that didn't stop the snow as reigning Scottish champion Colin McRae, Jimmy's eldest son, swept through the Correnny stage. But he was under pressure from Jimmy Girvan, who, after 2 victories, wanted to capitalise on his early success and gain valuable championship points. But he was plagued by punctures. Colin McRae, meanwhile, had a sensational drive, only to have his differential fail 3 stages from the finish, depriving him of his first national event win. David Galanders suffered the same fate as McRae and failed to finish. While Donald Milne also joined the list of retirements, withdrawing the Peugeot. Phil Walker battled against a blowing exhaust for most of the day, but still managed a spectacular drive. Jimmy Girvan pressed on but couldn't quite catch the other four-wheel drive Celica of Graham Middleton from Shropshire. Phil Walker's Escort was now really suffering, and early retirement was just around the corner. At the service halt in Huntly, Girvan's mechanics were waiting to check the car to make sure all was well. And there were just minor problems.
We're flying either second eagle or third, you know, I'm not too sure, but we'll need to wait until Graham comes in, get his time. So we've had a few good runs in the last stage, going very well indeed. We're getting a bit of a noise from this front suspension here, but it's I don't think it's a big problem. It's just when you're going slow, you're hearing this knocking noise. So if we can just get this to the end, we'll be fine.
Brother Wilson couldn't match Jimmy's pace, but rode on to 28th place in his Cosworth, while Jimmy settled for runner-up position. The crowds, meanwhile, were left wondering what had happened to the weather. But the weather did improve by May for the Argyll stages, with some welcome, dry, bright conditions, a contrast to the previous 3 rounds. Jimmy Girvan looked all set to take his 4th championship victory in a row, but he was delayed in the dust when Murray Grierson restarted after crashing and slipped down to 2nd place. Andrew Wood, again in the Ascona, put the pressure on the leaders through the Knapdale stage, and although slowed by suspension problems, finished 3rd overall. Murray Grierson had lost 2 minutes through his diversion into a ditch, but on other stages, like Ardgarten, he regained some time and still finished within the top 10. Phil Walker again set some fastest times in his left-hand drive Escort, proving that the car may be elderly, but it has a good rally pedigree. An excellent drive throughout the day, and he was rewarded with 7th place. Bob Locke had come over from the Isle of Man, but the trip was to end in disaster when he rolled his Audi near the shores of Loch Awe. The small Mazda 323 of Colin Valentine worked hard all day, and in spite of a smashed wheel and suspension damage, ended an excellent 6th overall. George Gold, though, in another Mazda, wasn't doing quite so well. Alistair McRae was now among the contenders for the Challengers Award for the best newcomer to the sport, helped by his 1300cc class win in this 4th round. So the sights were set on the highlight of the year, the Scottish International Rally, and round 5 of the championship. And once again at the wheel of another car, Andrew Wood, this time with an Isle of Man registered Audi 90 Quattro, seen here in De Villa Forest in Fife in a particularly gritty spirit. But Farmer Wood didn't have it all his own way, in spite of four-wheel drive, with this spin in Craigvinian Forest in Perthshire. David Galanders had changed cars again too. For the International, he was out with the Toyota Celica GT4. Lotte Lundqvist's Astra GTE was caught on the Craigvinian stage by Colin Valentine's Mazda 323. He was anxious to get past. Ian Wilson from Stonehouse had a good rally, consolidating his win in the Argyll stages the month before. Wood battered on through Erechty, the highest stage in Scottish rallying, leading the championship drivers. But Jimmy Girvin was one of 24 registered championship drivers who failed to finish when he plunged off the road in Strathire Forest. Things didn't go much better for David Galanders, a former British national champion who also retired when his drive shaft failed. Colin Valentine continued to get the most from his Mazda. Ian Wilson went well, ending a good rally with a fine 16th overall. Less luck for Ewan Brewis. He was heading for retirement in his Mazda. So let's see what conditions were like on the 89 Scottish with this backseat view of De Villa Forest. Driving is Alistair Smith in his Volkswagen Golf GTI. So a storming pace from Andrew Wood, like this drive through Castleower in the Borders, pushed him up among the leaders. And for Colin Valentine too, a good event, although a few problems along the way, which left him in 35th position overall. Ewan Brewis failed to finish, breaking his gearbox in the dry and dusty conditions. No problems though for Wood, a fine finish at 10th overall, top championship driver, valuable points to push him up to 5th place in the table, and still 5 rounds to go. After the mid-season round in the Jim Clark Memorial Rally in July, the championship stayed in the area for round 7, the Border Rally. Jimmy Girvin had been unable to repeat his early successes through the rest of the year, but was still in 3rd place in the championship and determined to regain his form, with the added battle of reverse seeding. But a series of punctures cost him valuable minutes, and he had to settle for 9th place. Andrew Wood was now in a Group A Vauxhall Astra GTE, but also suffering punctures. He was also running on unleaded fuel and advertising the fact too, and it seemed to help, finishing 6th and top Scot. The Borders are notorious for the sharp roadside rocks. Murray Grierson fell foul of them too with this rear wheel puncture on the Elibank stage. By Castlelower he was fully mobile again and finished 14th, and a strong contender for the championship, which he won in 1987. Kirkcaldy Ice Rink in September, and the championship moved to Fife for the Kingdom Rally. The competitors line up for a 175-mile route with 14 special stages. Leading the field is championship leader Murray Grierson in the Pitmedden stage on his way to the afternoon tests in Perthshire, using again his older car, the Opel Kadett 400. He was desperate to hold on to his championship position and was working hard for it. Andrew Wood hadn't intended contesting the championship at the start of the season. Now the title looked a real possibility. The pressure was on Jimmy Girvin. He'd had such a good start with 4 successive wins, but was still trying to repeat that early promise. But the championship could still be his, with a bit of luck along the way. One man who'd made a big impression during the year was Walter Henderson from Carnwath in his Escort RS. He'd climbed steadily up the championship table and with some others was ready to take advantage should any of the leaders stumble, leaving, as you might say, the door open for anything to happen. And he set off well, leading after the first stage. Took the lead from him for 2 stages before losing it again. But that was better than George Gauld, who lost time through this slide. And things didn't get any better either. A hard landing landed him with a front puncture. Wilson Girvin had been keeping something of a low profile throughout the year in his Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth, quietly climbing up the points table to lie 4th. Donald Milne's Nissan engine Peugeot never really achieved its desired effect, but but he did provide some good action for the rally crowds in the forests. Jimmy McGee retired with a broken distributor cap and rotor arm, while Alistair McRae worked hard with his 1300cc Nova, finishing the day in 36th place after losing 3 minutes with electrical failure. Ronnie Tom's Toyota Corolla won't get lost in the forest. It's one of the best turned out of the clubman's cars, and he handles it well too. 17th overall in this rally and first in his class. On to the Knockhill race circuit in Fife, and this is where some of the forest rally men come to grief. It's a quite different matter controlling a car on loose gravel to a fast and furious thrash round a racetrack. Each one has his own particular style, some better than others. Dr. John Shirley, the Fort William GP, had a superb drive in his Escort to give him his first national victory in 15 years. Some of the driving may have been dramatic for the navigators in the passenger seat, but it wasn't relaxing for the wildlife either. This particular deer watched the action, decided it had had enough, and a lucky escape from George Gauld's Mazda. Jimmy Girvan maintained his title challenge by finishing in second place behind John Shirley. No such luck though for Walter Henderson. After leading virtually all the way, he lost everything with a broken axle shaft on stage 12. Donald Milne had to settle for a placing down the field at number 18 after a spectacular drive. While Richard Moore from Forfar worked hard with his Nova to finish just ahead of McRae at 35. The spectacular setting of Loch Tay in October, and in the autumn sunshine the setting for round 9, the Hackle Rally. On the notorious Drummond Hill stage, Andrew Wood, lying third in the championship, was determined to consolidate his position. But Murray Grierson was equally sure he was going to do everything he could to hold on to the top spot. And then there was Jimmy Girvan, second in the points table and just 10 points behind the leader. Third place gave him more valuable points. The championship battle was wide open for this round, organised jointly by the 55 Car Club and Alloa and District Motor Club. Stuart Robertson wasn't registered for the championship, but he still managed second place. Walter Henderson wasn't sparing anything, especially his car, but his luck was out again, this time with a sheared stub axle on just the third stage. Ewan Brewis took things steady throughout the day and was rewarded with 6th overall. George Gauld took a different approach, in fact several different approaches, and finished 2 places further down the field in an identical car. Here's Donald Milne in the Craigvinian stage in Perthshire with the Peugeot in full cry on his way to 9th place. Phil Walker was still well within the top 10 championship places. A good result would move him up even further. Mike Riddick was out in his 4-wheel drive Toyota Celica, but he couldn't quite match Gervin's times. He finished 16th. Murray Grayson went into the final stage in 4th place, but a blistering drive by Phil Walker pushed him down to 5th. In spite of this minor diversion, Walker set fastest time on this stage at Craigvinian and finished 4th, the best placing for a rear-wheel drive car. No championship points at stake, but a good 2nd place for Stuart Robertson behind Andrew Wood. "18-year-old Alistair McRae had one of his best results of the year to push the Nova into 11th position, to be the highest placed newcomer. High revs were the order of the day for Andy Kelly from Newton Mearns in his Toyota Corolla. 24th overall and first in his class, in spite of the odd error. Handling a rally car isn't easy at the best of times. With a rear wheel puncture, it's decidedly difficult. Just ask Ian Gray from Forfar. The Trossachs in the autumn can be beautiful, provided you've got a heavy-duty raincoat and a strong umbrella. The weather didn't concern the furthest travelled competitor, Icelander Steingrimur Ingesson. He was more worried about the trees.
Well, I did the Hackle Rally and I thought the Scottish forest might be similar roads to the roads in Iceland, although we don't have any trees there. And I just enjoyed it here.
You enjoyed the Hackle. The conditions were different though from today.
I believe very much so. I have never been rallying in British forest in a weather like that, so, well, I'm looking forward to it, but still quite scared of it.
And he was right. He crashed and rolled his Datsun on the very first stage. Andrew Wood set about getting the best result possible. A good placing in the Trossachs could give him enough points to take the championship, which he had just failed to do 5 years ago. But the weather, now mist rather than rain, was an unexpected hazard.
Straight. Fairly straight. Go on. It's all straight.
Jimmy Gervin's luck was out. This front wheel puncture on the very first stage left him limping to the finish and losing valuable seconds. It dropped him down to 10th place, and even 4-wheel drive couldn't beat the mist. Dabiti garage owner Stuart Robertson was giving the Metro 6R4 its last appearance in Scotland. His is the last and has been sold, but similar cars have won the previous 4 Trossachs events. Murray Grayson's rear-wheel drive Metro is powered by a Ford engine. He wanted to give the car a good trial before the 1990 season, but first he'll have to repair the front end, damaged in a heavy landing. Walter Henderson found that things weren't quite going all his way. But that he recovered from this minor diversion on the first stage. Gordon Smith, on the other hand, gave an object lesson in a handbrake turn. By now it became clear Stuart Robertson was heading for a 5th successive win for a Metro 6R4 in the Trossachs, in spite, or perhaps because of, the dreadful conditions.
Very slippy, very difficult. Fog's an added hazard, but it's lifting a little since the last stage.
So you're enjoying it generally, though?
Yes, aye. It suits the Metro.
Jimmy Girvan's early puncture had been a major setback, but he'd regained some lost ground and he knew exactly what he still had to do.
We're lying about 7th going into there, but hopefully we'll be moved up a place now. You know, I think we had a good time through there, but we've got to go like hell.
Yeah. But no problems with the car?
Apart from the puncture in the first stage, you know, nothing at all. The car's going great.
And what about the conditions? Pretty slippery?
Aye, pretty slippery, but the car's gripping fine, no problem. It's running well, so cross the finger, just have to keep going flat out till the finish. That's all we can do.
But crossed fingers just weren't enough, and on the 8th and last stage, another front-wheel puncture put paid to his championship hopes, leaving him to stagger to the finish in 8th place, 2 points short of capturing the championship. So a fine first place in the rally for Stuart Robertson by a margin of 18 seconds, even though he had a 2 seconds a mile penalty against the Group B car. Murray Grierson suffered 2 time-consuming spins which ruined his championship hopes, but he recovered to finish 3rd in the event. Last year's champion challenger Walter Henderson took 4th place, with Phil Walker just 9 seconds behind. Ian Baumgart had just 1 puncture to take 6th place, while Ewan Brewis took his Mazda to 7th, with Bob Locke's Audi and Alistair McRae's Sierra completing the top 10. At the finish back in Aberfoyle, Andrew Wood was unaware of Girvan's bad luck, which had given him the championship. But once he knew, he was obviously pleased.
I'm delighted. It's not sunk in yet. It's going to take a wee while for it to sink in and just realise what has actually happened.
Without wishing to lessen your efforts, it really came down to Jimmy Girvan's punctures, didn't it?
It did, yes, but I think, you know, you've got to be neat and tidy driving, and we were neat and tidy, we had no punctures, we had a good day, so, you know, you pay for some things as you get them.